All right, final week of the Open 26.3, starting here in 3, 2, 1, and here we go. So, not a bad Open thus far for me in terms of my placings and also how the workouts felt. Basically, the first workout is just wall balls, a bit of leg fatigue. The second workout was just ring muscle ups, grip fatigue. And neither of those are really too big of a kind of like sufferfest, if you will. But I knew this workout was going to change it, and I knew I was due for a good beating here. A lot of the movements that hadn't come up yet tend to not be my best. Double unders, burpees, things like that. So when I saw this, I thought maybe I could salvage like a pretty solid score, but that didn't happen. Game plan here was to burpee fast off the ground, so kind of just catapult off the ground, bounce off the ground as much as possible, but take my time getting over the bar and starting kind of the next burpee, so opening up the back a little bit, not staying hunched over. I think that just makes it really hard to breathe. And so you'll see here what I'm doing, little hop step over, and really standing up more than you'll see most people. So I kind of just wanted to keep it as smooth as possible for as long as possible. This is the only week of the Open that I'm not sure if I got the best out of myself. And maybe I'm just saying that because my score isn't what I wanted, but I don't know. I think I just thought about pacing and staying cool and how it should feel at how many minutes in and how far you want to get. I just thought about that for probably 3 days straight, which when you're doing a workout, you're any sort of race really, you're constantly weighing kind of this, even subconsciously, this state of like RPE compared to how far you have left. So it's okay if you're like maxing out, but you're in the final 30 seconds. And basically, if you're in line with your expectations in terms of how you should be feeling when, that kind of determines, just like whether you feel it's going well or not, and usually how well you perform. So I think it's good to keep a tab on that. I maybe just focus too much on it in this workout. So I watched a couple guys on YouTube go that I wanted to get a similar score to them. So I kind of knew if I was finishing around 4, or I suppose around 2, depending on the way you look at it, around 10 and a half minutes, that I was in really good shape to get pretty deep into the workout. So I wanted to be within 24 reps of finishing, meaning you've done all the power cleans and there's just a set of burpees and thrusters to go. And yeah, that didn't happen. So here I'm doing singles even at 95 pounds. I got Emma to bring in her Rogue black plates here, that pretty good dead stop, so you can get away with the singles. And I still think it was the play. I just don't think I had the fitness to get a good score on this given day. So fast singles here, kind of like a no contact muscle. So a bit more muscularly fatiguing, but keeps the heart rate down a little bit. And honestly, up to this point, I was thinking things were going pretty well. Yeah, you see the burpees here. Like I'm okay with how these look. It's pretty fast off the ground, but I do just look a bit labored and heavy, moving my body through space here. So that's something I'll continue to work on. A big off-season focus for me had been like a lighter weight hinging. So something like these light power cleans isn't necessarily my forte. And frankly, I think that's what blew me up a little bit here. So already the transition to start the barbell movements has slowed down a bit. I did do the first 2 sets of 12 thrusters unbroken. Not sure if that was the play. Basically, the goal was burpee slow, clean, slow, and knock out the thrusters really well. Like I honestly had visions of doing all the sets, all the first 4 sets, so everything at 115 unbroken on the thrusters, and just going nice smooth singles on the cleans, and smooth burpees as well. You'll see here I'm sitting down. That is a bad sign 5 minutes into the workout. So I still had hope at this point of a solid score, but this is kind of where things dwindled. So like I said, I wanted to be 10.5 minutes finishing the 115 bar, and I'm about 5:15 finishing the 95-pound bar. So you can do the math on that. I am on pace, but being on pace in this case is kind of off pace because things are only getting more fatigued and heavier as we go. So it was kind of around this time that I thought maybe my goal score wouldn't happen, but I could keep my goal execution together, which up to this point is pretty good. You'll see cleans here. You guys can be the judge. The elbows could be a bit better, but if you like kind of freeze frame it, I think they're definitely in front of the bar, but I'm not sure if that really looks that great on camera. No issues with submitting videos this year. I was saying this is the first year that our gym isn't affiliated, so submitting videos honestly hasn't been that too big of a pain because we would take the videos anyways. You just have to be ready to maybe deal with the greater level of scrutiny. Yeah. Okay, so we're almost at the 7-minute mark here. So almost at the halfway. So I'm completely off pace to finish the workout, but that was never the goal. I really wanted to be top 50 overall in the Open this year. That's always a good benchmark because it's just front page. You don't have to scroll much to see your name. And for me, with these workouts where the heaviest thing is a 135 thruster for 2 sets of 12, that's a really good sign because these are not things that I consider myself to be world class at. Now I was in 44th place after week 2, but I think this is gonna move me down probably around 100th overall, which sucks. My first week I was about 85th in that workout. Second week I think like 110, and I wouldn't be surprised if this was like 500 or 600. So takeaways are got to get better at these sort of things, but you also have to remember that these sort of things usually aren't what's tested when you get to, say, the games or, the WFP event finals. It's kind of just these online qualifier type things, which I don't have to do anymore after this for the games or for WFP, which is nice. Yeah, honestly, even though the fatigue is building here, the burpee pace is still, I think, what it needs to be. What's falling apart is the clean cadence, for sure. Transition from burpee to the bar, and also I've started to do 7-5 on the thrusters, and that break has gotten quite long. I did feel like I was recovering. See here, 1, 2, 3, like 3.5, 4 seconds before picking up that bar, which that was like a 1 second break on round 1 and 2. So definitely starting to take a bit more break. Clean reps here, still not bad in terms of cadence, but at 135 they got pretty rough. Checking in on that 10.5 minute time mark that I wanted. We're a minute away from that, and I still have a few cleans, 12 burpees, 12 thrusters, and a weight change. So I've fallen off big. Yeah, like I said, this was about the only workout that I wasn't super happy with. just in terms of my execution. I think I maybe overthought it a bit, which I definitely have a tendency in the past, not necessarily the recent past, but the past to do. And when things start to not go how you had envisioned it, then it's not good. So, thus far in my fitness endeavors, I've always done visualization of the best case scenario. And I think that for me that is the way to go. So before this, I try to envision being 10 and a half minutes in and still super poppy off the ground and recovering on the burpees, and the cleans are, still fast singles. And see, this is a huge break. That's no good. And right now it's not feeling like that. And maybe had I not had those expectations or, thought about it so much, maybe then it wouldn't put me in a bad mental headspace. So I think it's kind of like, I do think visualizing success maybe increases the chances of success, but it maybe also increases the likelihood of catastrophic performance. I don't know if we're quite there, catastrophe with this. It just wasn't great. So I think maybe visualizing the workout going smoothly just creates extreme performances, positive or negative. Whereas some people like to envision worst case scenario. I'm currently listening to this book. The thing is called How Bad Do You Want It? It's by Matt Fitzgerald. And he recommended envisioning the worst case scenario. So maybe that's something we'll try. Frankly, maybe I just didn't have the fitness. It doesn't matter what I envisioned happening for the last 3 days. Either way, I'm very glad to be done the Open, and I hope that this lack of skill and weight in the Open means that the quarterfinals will adequately make up for that. But quite frankly, again, quarterfinals are almost a second Open for me. I'll do them all once. I'm not trying to qualify for anything from quarterfinals. I just need to be good enough to be eligible for the games, which it appears I can do that even with 3 workouts that are low skill and low weight. So not too concerned about that. I'll just do all the quarterfinals once. Try to keep training kind of through that. For example, before this workout, the day before, I had a big training day, lots of upper body pressing, and not gonna lie, I was pretty sore, but I have 0 regrets in doing that training before, because this is not what I'm concerned about for the year. So after quarterfinals, I'll gear up for a very big May. I'm gonna have to become a overseas travel specialist. Got the protocols in place to hopefully make that happen. And one thing I'm gonna have to do better this year is kind of coming down from competitions. Usually I'll eat very poorly, sleep very poorly, because I don't normally do those 2 things, and after a competition it's like kind of the time to get it out of your system. But I'm kind of gonna have to try to avoid that, because that usually makes me feel pretty bad for like the next week. And looking at May, I have a competition 2.5 weeks after I'm done, WFP London, so can't really feel like crap for a week. I'm gonna have to really prioritize recovery during those periods, and that's also tough when you're flying overnight, likely in economy class, unless my bids on first class come through. So that's something that will be a focus for this year, is just like very clean travel and very clean recovery from comps, and trying not to trash the body, keeping it as much like training as possible while still getting that extra few percent out for comp. So 90 seconds here. This is where I really felt sorry for myself. A set of 5 on those thrusters and then just hit the ground. I was quite angry at myself for that. Like, frankly, I think I could have knocked out 12 hard thrusters and then gutted through 12 burpees and then done a couple cleans. But I just, in the mental state I was in at this point, a set of 5. And so I have now a bigger set, an ascending rep scheme, to finish out 12, which thankfully I didn't feel sorry enough for myself to not do. So I knocked out 7. And I have 40 seconds here, which when I hit the deck here for the burpees, I speed up a little bit for sure, but I'm thinking like 2.5 seconds. Like, I did some quick math, and I was thinking I was gonna definitely finish the burpees and like have 10 seconds for cleans. But as you'll see, I finish right at the 16-minute mark, which I should be 2-foot hopping these burpees up and over to, get these done as fast as possible. So mental lapses here, weak effort, nothing to write home about, but it does mark the end of the Open. Hopefully I don't plummet too far down the leaderboard, but really doesn't matter that much. So yeah, after this I did a nice run, got in a 20-minute tempo at a 4:10 kilometer in the wind on hills, which was a good makeup for what we see here. Just brutal. Anyways, that's the end of the Open. Moving on, big season ahead.